Hello, everybody. You are very welcome to Successful Perspectives. Successful Perspectives, of course, is when we deep dive into the topic of leadership with one of our members from our very selective and influential network, Boardroom by EMIR. And for this chat, I am delighted to be joined in this conversation by Massoud Biouki, Trade Commissioner of Sweden to the UAE and Market Area Director for the Middle East at Business Sweden. Massoud, it's wonderful to have you on Successful Perspectives, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Frank. Great to be on.
So, Massoud, let's start by going back a little bit in time and thinking about leadership when you were younger, say when you were starting out in your career. Was there someone you looked up to when you were younger that represented the kind of leader you wanted to be?
Yeah, I mean, if you go very far back, yeah, and perhaps a bit of boring response, but like any kid, my first inspiration was my parents, and especially my father. It was that somebody I looked up to, and he inspired me enormously. Still until today, he's no longer around, unfortunately, but from time to time, he strikes me how elegantly he inspired me without not having all the answers himself, but really showed me the way and really pushed me to be the best kind of version of myself. So that is very, very early on. And later on, I get the privilege and opportunity to work with a Swedish entrepreneur called Kurt Bergfors, which built an empire rooted in empathy and concern of the well-being for both humans and planet. So I would say those two are perhaps the early inspirations for me.
From your experience to date, what is the one popular belief about being a leader from your learnings so far that is actually total nonsense?
I would say that would be that leaders are born and not made. Leadership is a skill that you can learn and develop by anyone. There is as many different leadership styles as there are personality, and there is no one right way to be a leader, I believe. The best leaders are able to adapt their style to the situation they are in and the people they are leading. So that would be my response.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the thing is, over time, and speaking to different members across the network, something that usually crops up is the potential perception of loneliness at the top of an organization. Do you feel that it can be lonely at the top in an organization? And is there anyone that you typically go to now for advice?
Yeah, I would say, the short answer is yes, but it also bit depends on what kind of a type of the leader you are. I tend to try to be as inclusive leader as possible and try to use the resources available to me as board members or my closest executives around me to bounce ideas and thoughts and so that will be one way of leading and getting that kind of inspiration and feedback. But another important aspect that I try to utilize as well is to having outside organizations, networks like EMIR or others that you can utilize in more difficult questions. And it doesn't necessarily need to be within the business, but people with different perspectives will, give you the full picture. So that would be my advice. Try to have as many networks and people around you that you can just bounce off ideas and thoughts.
No, exactly. It's something we actually do hear quite a lot about from our members is that ability to get out of the silo of your own organization also helps get a different perspective to look at your business potentially through a very different lens. And I know you mentioned you engage different stakeholders in the organization to get different perspectives. But as the world is evolving, as organizations are evolving, how do you identify potential leaders within an organization, what behaviors do they typically exhibit?
As our organization, I would say we are fortunate enough to attract extremely driven and high capacity individuals that are possessing many of the leadership behaviors, such as being very adaptable. They are self-motivated. They are easy to collaborate with others, good communicators, and so on. But for me personally, and based on my experience, I would say it comes down to personality and the values, such as high integrity, being humble, and perhaps most importantly, putting the team before the me. So yeah, that would be my take on it.
No, I agree. It's something we're very focused on within EMIR as well as the values of the business, but also the individuals in the business, and putting the team first is the most important part. I think you hit the nail on the head earlier that we as leaders do not have all the answers. It's that ability to be humble and to engage your team that shows a true leadership style. That then as individuals looking to create a growth within the organization and to grow themselves in the organization is a very, very important behavior to have. I'm very mindful of our time, Massoud. I have one more question for you before we shift in to our rapid fire round.
Okay.
How do you find your purpose?
I would say by continuously reflect on, my actions and the impact of my action has on our organization, but how that is kind of aligned with my own personal values. As humans, we tend to fall into a certain routine and the way we do things. And I try to challenge that, the challenge the status quo in a way, and ask, is this what I want to do? And this is the right way to do it? And does this have the impact I want? So that's what's working for me.
Oh, excellent. And Massoud, that's excellent. I love these questions and your answers because honestly, there are things that I reflect on quite a lot on my leadership journey to date. So you've given me good food for thought here so
Thank you.
far. But Massoud, look, thank you for your time. Look, thanks for being on for Successful Perspectives. It's been a pleasure having you. That was excellent from my perspective. Some very, very interesting insights.
Great. Thank you so much, Frank, having me on.